Russia and Iran talked about developing a gold-backed Persian Gulf token, a stablecoin. And this would be obviously used for oil. Now we're going to get to the gold-backed currency or the commodity-backed BRICS currency, settlement currency. In fact, at the end of the meeting last 2 weeks ago, the finance ministers were tasked. So they were tasked with figuring this out and coming back next year and proposing or discussing what they came up with. It's coming. There will be a gold or commodity-backed settlement currency to challenge the dollar. It is coming.
Popular precious metals analyst and president of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, Andy Schectman, is certain that the rapidly growing BRICS alliance will achieve all of its aims, including but not limited to establishing a gold-backed settlement currency that will rival the US dollar. The precious metals analyst says this will be the inevitable end of the dollar's status as an unrivaled reserve currency and the end of the Western hegemony. There have been lots of signs over the past months and weeks, according to Andy, who also notes that these signs will keep coming gradually until they're practically pouring over one another. Then the final devastating blow comes. Little by little, then all at once, Andy predicts. According to the Miles Franklin president, these signs might not seem really significant or impressive right now, but the Jenga pieces are being removed one after the other. Eventually, that final piece is going to be removed and everything will topple down so fast, nobody will realize what's happening until it is done. That final piece will be the big moment when the West realizes that all their arguments against the success of the BRICS alliance are completely gone and nothing stands in their way to ending the dollar's dominance. At the moment, the Western world seems unfazed by the threat the BRICS alliance poses. From decision makers to the media and everyday investors, many have pointed out that there is too much of a cultural divide between members of the economic bloc for them to actually cooperate to achieve their very massive goals. One poignant example people give is that there is no love lost between China and India. With a combined GDP of about $23 billion, both countries can be described as the two largest economic forces in the BRICS alliance. They also have the two largest populations in the world, yet there have been several moments of palpable tension between them. Andy believes these two economic giants of the Asian continent will be able to lay down their metaphoric arms and unite to bring down the common enemy, which at the moment is the Western dominance on the rest of the world. Andy says that Jenga piece is almost out as President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during last month's BRICS summit, pledged to intensify efforts to ease tensions along the Himalayan border between the two countries. This is an issue that has caused a lot of tension since the first clash in 2020. Andy says this is a sign that these countries are now ready to band together to stand up to the big Western bully. We will now bring you clips from Andy's recent interview with the original Mark Z. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
So anyways, let's talk about the things that I've seen in 1 week. And that's really what I was getting at, is that, when I started doing these podcasts about 4 years ago, it was a linear progression of events that I was following, where it started with the governments repatriating their gold and accumulating it for a year and a half. And that was the main story. And then all of a sudden, the BIS reclassified gold tier 1. And then we had the pandemic and it was just, there was a never increasing litany of information to talk about that fit this narrative. And now that I see the narrative clearly, what we see is a rapidly expanding amount of information every single day. So let's talk about what's happened in just the past week. First of all, one of the things that gets people, I think, a little bummed out is the counterintuitive price action. But you need to understand that if you're the West, the one thing that is difficult to allow to happen is to let gold and silver fully express themselves, which I'm going to explain in 1 second. But because it's the antithesis of the system, it's exposing the little old man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, and that's what they don't want to happen. Ultimately, you can only suppress or manipulate a market by pushing it in the direction that it is going. And it's been easy for them to do that for a long time until now. Until now, when the world wants gold and silver or alternatives to fiat or alternatives to the dollar, this is a losing battle that they are fighting. This is trying to bail out the Titanic with a Dixie cup. I hope it doesn't, sink quickly, bail out the water. Well, ain't going to work. So anyways, to that point, when we talk about the price of gold and silver not behaving the way we would expect them to, it's because we are looking at it through the wrong lens. In China and Japan, the second and third largest economies in the world, respectively, gold hit an all-time new high on Monday in those two currencies against the yuan and the yen as they continue to weaken against the dollar in the Forex market. Now, again, what really makes the dollar strong? We've talked about this forever. The full faith and credit of the dollar and the petro status. Well, we're losing or have already lost, ultimately, the petro status. The full faith and credit, well, the balance sheet, 2022 balance sheet showed we're 155 trillion in debt, 32 trillion, 33 trillion on the known of, or the admitted debt, but then Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, government, military pensions, all owed to the public, 130 trillion. So we're between 150 and 160 trillion in debt by their own admission, with 5 trillion in assets, the largest of which being student debt. It's pathetic. 40% of that asset base is student debt. Take that out of the equation. We have 3.5 trillion in assets backing 55 trillion in debt. It's pathetic. We are broke. So when you talk about gold hitting all-time highs against the yen and against the yuan, it should make you say, is it that the lens we are looking at is rose-colored? Is it tinted? Is it slanted? It is, and it is the inordinate and unjustified strength of the dollar that makes gold look weak. And when you talk about the chart we talked about last week, Mark, where we had the 20 largest economies in the world as measured, gold measured against those 20 largest economies in the world, it's at all-time highs. So minus the dollar, it's looking really good all around the world.
During the interview, Andy asks and answers the all-important question, what makes the BRICS work and what will motivate it to keep pushing to achieve all of its set goals? According to the Miles Franklin president, the alliance's original aim might have been to reduce the dollar's usage and influence in international trade, but it now transcends that. Andy believes the alliance is now a rallying cry, a huge source of motivation to the rest of the world that the West and the U.S. remain all-powerful for only as long as they allow it. It is also a way out of the extreme dependence on the shaky fiat system, which has proven to be highly unstable and impractical. By departing from the West and the world's leading fiat currency, Andy believes the BRICS 11 and every other country waiting in line to join will turn to gold as a well-suited replacement.
And I was thinking, what makes the BRICS work? And I was thinking, well, this isn't like NATO, which is a defense alliance, a regional defense alliance, if that's what you want to call it. This isn't like NAFTA, which is an economic trade partnership. What it is a group based around regional relationships, cultural similarity, even military power. And you could argue the initial motivating factor was pushing back against the Western hegemony, fighting against the Western sanctions. But I would argue that what it really is to me is mutually beneficial alliances and acting as partners rather than as adversaries. You look at what China is really doing, and we've talked about this at length, but just for those who haven't heard, building roads and bridges and maritime channels and gold and silver mines and oil refineries, and allowing the countries by which they are helping industrialize to reach their full potential, whether it be in the Belt Road Initiative, by industrializing Africa and South America, or whether it be about inviting the countries into this mix that have things to offer, such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. I mean, you have massive oil producers there, right? Argentina, you have a major agricultural producer. And what a lot of people don't know about Argentina as well is that they're the largest natural gas producer in South America. You have Egypt and Ethiopia. Now, Why would you bring those two countries in? Well, Egypt controls the Suez Canal, which is a huge shipping route. And Ethiopia is actually the largest and fastest, rather, growing economy in all of Africa. So you're putting all of these groups together that mutually benefit the whole and the countries that are being invited. You have a situation right now where, as we talked about the Jenga game, little by little by little by little, then all at once, or logarithmic decay. Saudi Arabia's oil exports to the United States and their holdings in U.S. treasuries have both reached 6-year lows. In other words, they're selling treasuries and they are curtailing the flow of oil. And this is against the Western wishes. We've already drained, thanks to Biden and his stupid agenda, drained the strategic petroleum level to stockpile to the lowest levels ever, or in a very, very long time anyway. And that's supposed to only be used for emergencies, not for political gain, as he had used it for. And you also see China's dumping bonds, by the way. And, you know, between China and Saudi Arabia and Japan dumping bonds, the government wants us to believe that the number 2 or 3 largest accumulator of our treasuries right now is the Cayman Islands. Now, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. And, you know, it's called a shell corporation, Federal Reserve Shell Corporation in the Cayman Islands. They are running out of people who want to buy our debt. And as that happens, the rates have to go higher to attract more, or the Federal Reserve just monetizes it, which creates hyperinflation. So either way, it's not a good thing.
The BRICS alliance is quickly gathering force to achieve its big aims. Many of the world's largest oil producers and other resource-rich countries have either formally applied to join, showed interest in joining, or have been asked to join in January. Andy does not dispute the fact that the dollar and the U.S. economy remain strong despite the current economic and social political challenges. However, he states that we have to come to terms with the fact that someday in the very near future, we will no longer be the largest fish in the ocean, and we have to re-strategize accordingly. Are you prepared for a time when the dollar will not enjoy as much influence as it enjoys now, and the U.S. is no longer a sole superpower? And are you properly positioned in gold and other commodities, which Andy says will be the glue that binds the global economy in this next era? Please drop your replies in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.